we appeared to have all this money, or we appeared to be rich, or we appeared, you were in the business.
It's painful. It is painful.
Many boys are abused.
And how that screws
and how
us,
that happens.
How that screws us up. Because my whole perspective on sex and women,
yeah,
with what I experienced at a young age and never talked about it, like that was one of the things I had with my dad. Like, if you would have talked to me about some stuff.
Blake Lively is losing control as Justin B's family, especially his father, Sam Baldoni, steps in with full force to shut down her claims.
What I've done as a father was whatever I could to help you. So I didn't want ever anybody to think that I've done anything to help you.
But Sam isn't just standing by his son's side. He's making sure the world knows exactly who's wearing the villain's mask in this showdown. Now, Blake isn't just going head-to-head with Justin. She's taking on his entire family, and they are not holding back. What started as a messy legal battle between her and Justin Bald has turned into an all-out war. And just when things couldn't get more vicious, Justin's own family jumped into the ring and tore into her with no mercy. And when I say tore into her, I mean they came in swinging. No filters, no hesitation, just absolute destruction. If Blake Lively thought she could manipulate her way out of this mess, she seriously miscalculated, because Justin B's family isn't the type to sit back and stay silent. His father, Sam Baldoni, came in swinging, and trust me, he did not hold back. He's been watching his son suffer for way too long at the hands of this woman, and now he's making sure the truth comes out, loud and clear. This isn't just some run-of-the-mill celebrity spat anymore. This has turned into a full-scale Hollywood war zone with major studios, media giants, and A-list stars taking sides. The battle for power is brutal, and from the way things are playing out, Blake Lively is slipping fast. It all escalated when Justin B's father, Sam, decided he'd had enough of Blake's so-called victim routine. And let's just say, he's making sure the world sees exactly what's been going on. Instead of pulling the usual Hollywood move, crying to the media about being misunderstood or vilified, Sam Baldoni played it smart. No over-the-top statement, no teary-eyed interviews. He did what any seasoned pro in the art of subtle destruction would do. He dropped a bomb on social media. A shady little TikTok clip started circulating, featuring a bulletin board stacked with glowing words about Justin Bald. It painted him as some kind of Hollywood saint. Compassionate, humble, supportive. Basically all the feel-good PR fluff you'd expect. But the real dagger? The caption. And oh, this was pure calculated genius. It read, "In a world full of Blakes and Ryans, be a Justin. I love you too, Daddy." You could practically hear the internet gasp. It was quiet. It was slick. But at the same time, it was the sharpest dig possible. He didn't have to name-drop Blake Lively or Ryan Reynolds. Everyone immediately knew exactly who was getting torched. And the cherry on top? That post exploded. It went viral instantly. Millions of views, thousands of comments, and a massive wave of people choosing sides. Team Bald was gaining steam, and Blake's little "I'm the victim" act? Crumbling fast. Her credibility was vanishing before everyone's eyes. Meanwhile, Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively? Silent. But don't be fooled. Behind the scenes, they were fuming. Sources close to them claimed they were absolutely livid over the blatant disrespect. But here's the real question. What were they going to do about it? Cry on Instagram? Fire off some shady lawsuit threats? Because at this point, every time Blake tries to pull the victim card, it just backfires. She's not winning sympathy. She's embarrassing herself on a public scale. And while she scrambled, the Baldoni family looked untouchable, united, confident, and completely unbothered. This wasn't just luck. It was a strategic power move that sent one loud message. Justin's family wasn't about to let Blake bulldoze his career without a fight. But oh, just when Blake thought she might catch her breath after Sam Baldoni's savage social media takedown, the Hollywood Reporter came in like a wrecking ball, dragging her even harder. Not just throwing her under the bus, backing it up and rolling over her again for good measure. They didn't just throw shade, they went all in with their February 21st cover. And when I say it was brutal, I mean it deserves a spot in a museum as one of the most disrespectful moments in Hollywood history. The cover? A cartoon of Blake Lively looking absolutely ridiculous, launching a phone at Justin Bald using a slingshot. A direct jab at how her entire case revolved around desperately trying to subpoena his text messages to prop up her claims. And let's be real. When a Hollywood magazine, the same industry that bends over backwards to protect A-list actresses, suddenly decides to roast one of their own, that's when you know the industry has turned its back on her. And Blake? Oh, she lost it. Full-blown meltdown mode. She immediately lashed out at The Hollywood Reporter, accusing them of pushing sexist tropes and belittling harassment claims. And sure, that sounds like the classic PR-approved damage control move. But here's the real problem. Nobody cared. Not the public, not the industry, nobody. People loved the cover. It was everywhere. Shared across social media, dissected by analysts, and most importantly, it made Blake Lively look like a complete joke. But the real dagger? The fact that a major publication felt comfortable mocking her lawsuit publicly meant only one thing. Hollywood was done protecting her. Her PR team scrambled, rushing out an official statement calling the cover outrageously insulting and accusing the media of silencing victims. Girl, please! Hollywood isn't silencing you. They're exposing you. They're making sure the world sees this entire legal circus for what it really is. A sloppy, desperate PR stunt that backfired spectacularly. And Justin Baldoni? He didn't even need to respond. That's how brutal this takedown was. The Baldoni family didn't even have to lift a finger. The media was dragging her for them. Let's talk about why this cover was such a massive turning point. Before this, Blake Lively was out here controlling the narrative, playing the fearless warrior, fighting against the evil forces of Hollywood misogyny. But once The Hollywood Reporter clowned her publicly, that entire image shattered. This wasn't some random gossip blog throwing shade. This was a respected industry giant, a publication that major studios and executives actually take seriously. And if they felt comfortable roasting Lively's case, you can bet that Hollywood's biggest power players are already backing away fast. Because let's be real, nobody wants to be on the losing side of a public war. And right now, Blake Lively is losing badly.
Every single thing that she's claimed against him has been disproved.
So he was a class act throughout the entire process?
Yes.
Meanwhile, the Baldoni family is sitting back, watching the chaos unfold, doing absolutely nothing. Because at this point, they don't have to. Sam Baldoni already made his point with that savage social media post. He set the narrative, and now the media and the public are doing the rest of the work for him. Blake Lively thought she could turn this into a battle of reputations, banking on a carefully orchestrated smear campaign to destroy Justin B's career. Instead, her own reputation is in the gutter, Hollywood is mocking her, the media has turned against her, her own PR team is scrambling and failing to control the damage, and the Baldoni family? Untouched, thriving, watching her self-destruct in real time. At this point, Blake Lively was getting dragged so hard, even her own PR team couldn't keep up. Every attempt at damage control? Flopping. And the best part? She had no one to blame but herself. The internet is ruthless, and the second people sniff out hypocrisy, they dig deep. And oh, did they find plenty. Old interviews started resurfacing, and suddenly, people were reminded Blake Lively has been a walking red flag for years. She wasn't some Hollywood darling. She was a mean girl, controlling projects, pushing people out of the spotlight when they didn't fit her personal agenda. One director even hinted that certain actresses loved to rewrite scripts behind the scenes. And guess what? People instantly connected the dots. Now, the narrative had completely flipped. Blake Lively wasn't some innocent victim, silenced by evil men. No, she was a privileged actress who conveniently played the victim whenever things didn't go her way. And the moment she realized her credibility was crumbling, she panicked, scrambling to flip the blame onto Justin Baldoni. She started throwing around words like smear campaign, desperately trying to convince people that Justin was behind some grand conspiracy to take her down. But here's the thing. nobody bought it. The damage was already done, and for the first time ever, Blake Lively actually had to face real consequences. No deleting tweets, no brushing it under the rug, no escaping. And just when you thought this PR nightmare couldn't get any worse for her, Justin's team decided to drop the receipts. And not just any receipts. These were career-ending, cold, hard text messages that exposed every single lie she had told about him. One of her biggest claims? That Justin Baldoni had walked in on her while she was breastfeeding, making him sound like some kind of creep, violating her privacy.
Well, shortly into production, Blake Lively is very dissatisfied with virtually everything around her, is like this virulent sexual harasser who can't stop harassing one of the biggest stars in Hollywood in front of everybody on the set. I've got questions. I'm not sure why he would do that.
The internet was outraged until Baldoni released the actual texts. And guess what they said? Hey, I'm breastfeeding right now, but come into my trailer. Let's run lines. Oh, so she invited him in. After spending all that time telling the world he was some predator, barging into her personal space. The second this text hit the internet, Blake Lively's entire case collapsed. Even people who had been defending her started switching sides, because let's be real, if she was willing to lie about that, what else had she been lying about? But here's the biggest slap in the face. Justin Baldoni wasn't even allowed to attend his own movie premiere. Yep, you heard that right. This wasn't just petty Hollywood drama anymore. This was Hollywood at its most toxic. Reports confirmed that Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds were running the show, and they made damn sure that Baldoni and his entire family were banished from the event. Just think about that for a second. Baldoni produced, directed, and starred in this movie, his own work. And yet, because Blake Lively didn't like him, she had so much control over the event that he wasn't even allowed in the same room. And if you're wondering why Sam Baldoni stepped into this mess in the first place, this was probably it. Imagine watching your son's entire career get hijacked by a woman who was blatantly lying, while nobody in Hollywood had the courage to stand up for him. Sam had every right to go nuclear on social media, because at this point, this wasn't just a legal battle anymore, this was a power move. And Lively and Reynolds were making it loud and clear that they controlled Hollywood, and Baldoni was done. Except he wasn't, because this backfired spectacularly.
Insulted Blake Lively, blast sexist. The Hollywood Reporter cover lampooning her Justin Baldoni lawsuit. Should be ashamed of yourself.
After the Hollywood Reporter dragged Lively through the mud, people started opening their eyes. The internet saw that Lively had been caught in multiple lies. The media was turning against her. And her victim act? No one was buying it anymore. And then came the premiere disaster, which only made her look even worse. Instead of being the brave survivor standing up to injustice, she now looked like a Hollywood bully, using her influence to silence people. And to make matters worse, Baldoni's supporters weren't letting this go. They were making sure the world knew exactly what had happened. Sam Baldoni's social media diss? Validated. Justin's leaked text messages? Career-saving? Blake Lively? Absolutely humiliated. And the best part? Justin Baldoni didn't even have to do a thing. The Baldoni family sat back, watched, and let Hollywood itself tear Blake Lively apart. This was supposed to be her moment. She thought she was about to cancel Justin Baldoni, play the hero, and walk away untouched. Instead, her own lies came back to haunt her, and the people she was trying to take down, they didn't even have to lift a finger. Blake Lively wanted a fight, she got one. But what she wasn't ready for? A family that actually fights back. She really thought she was some kind of mastermind, huh? She thought she could waltz into Hollywood's biggest legal war, play the victim, and have the entire industry bow at her feet. But this isn't a movie, and she's not the heroine. In fact, at this point, she's the villain everyone's rooting against. And just when you thought her delusions couldn't get any worse, we find out she actually compared herself to Daenerys Targaryen from Game of Thrones. Yes, you read that right. In leaked messages, Blake Lively actually referred to Ryan Reynolds and Taylor Swift as her dragons. And honestly, The secondhand embarrassment is painful. I have dragons just like Danny. I have Ryan Reynolds and Taylor Swift. Ugh, girl, please. Are we serious right now? Does Blake Lively really think her life is some kind of medieval fantasy, where she's this all-powerful queen leading an army into battle? Someone needs to cancel her HBO subscription because this is beyond embarrassing. And let's be real, her so-called dragons weren't exactly breathing fire for her, were they? While she was out here flexing about her imaginary army, the reality was looking a lot less impressive. Because then, rumors started swirling and they weren't in her favor. Reports claimed Taylor Swift wanted absolutely nothing to do with this mess. And honestly, can you blame her? Taylor is a PR genius. She doesn't let anyone else's scandals drag her down, especially when it's a fight that has nothing to do with her. Blake tried to rope her in, probably thinking that Taylor's billion-dollar empire and her army of fans would somehow shield her from the backlash. But newsflash, Taylor wasn't about to let herself get burned over this. But instead of rushing to her defense, Taylor Swift was reportedly distancing herself. And trust me, the internet noticed. Because here's the thing, if Taylor Swift was really backing Blake Lively, she would have made that crystal clear. She wouldn't be silent while the entire internet ripped Blake apart. She wouldn't be avoiding the topic while Hollywood publicly humiliates her so-called best friend. Taylor knows the power of her words. If she actually cared, she would have used them. But she didn't. And you know why? Because she doesn't want to go down with Blake Lively's sinking ship. Swift knows that standing by Blake right now is a bad business move. Hollywood is turning against her, the media is mocking her, and her legal case is falling apart faster than a CW drama. Taylor Swift built her entire brand on being untouchable. And right now, Blake Lively is the definition of radioactive. And Ryan Reynolds? Well, he's a little stuck, isn't he? Unlike Taylor, he doesn't have the luxury of distancing himself because he's married to the mess. But let's be real, he's not exactly stepping up for Blake either. He's not out here fighting for her honor or calling out the media for their so-called sexism. Nope. He's keeping it cute and staying quiet. Because Ryan knows the deal. Hollywood is bigger than his marriage, and he's not about to burn industry bridges just to defend someone who's losing credibility by the day. And that is the real tragedy for Blake Lively. She thought she was untouchable. She thought that having Hollywood's biggest pop star and one of its most bankable actors in her corner would make her invincible. But the moment things got ugly, one of them ghosted her and the other isn't fighting her battles. And if that doesn't scream fall from grace, I don't know what does. And while Blake Lively's career is in free fall, guess who's thriving? Justin Baldoni. The biggest irony in this entire mess? Blake Lively set out to destroy Baldoni, but instead, she made him a household name. She tried to take him down, but now, he's getting more media attention than ever, and not in a bad way. He's got interview requests pouring in, industry insiders rallying behind him, and people who had never even heard his name before this lawsuit are suddenly paying attention. He went from that guy from Jane the Virgin to one of the most talked about figures in Hollywood. Meanwhile, Blake Lively is scrambling. And it's not just online backlash, Hollywood itself is taking notice. Rumors are already swirling that major studios are hesitant to cast her. Because here's the truth, Hollywood doesn't care about right or wrong. They care about marketability. And right now, Blake Lively's market value is plummeting. Nobody wants to attach their billion-dollar franchise to someone drowning in controversy. Blake Lively is quickly becoming a liability rather than an asset. And remember when SAG-AFTRA initially acted like they were on her side? Yeah, well, that went silent real quick. Because the moment those text messages leaked and her credibility started crumbling, the industry stopped pretending to care. Hollywood doesn't protect you when you're no longer useful, and Blake is learning that the hard way. Insiders are even predicting that this case could ruin her career forever. And let's be honest, they're probably right. The media is making a joke out of her. Her colleagues are distancing themselves. Her attempts to control the narrative? All backfired spectacularly. Meanwhile, Justin Baldoni's supporters aren't backing down. His family is standing by him. His legal team is holding firm. His fans are pushing back harder than ever. The Baldoni family made sure that the public saw the real story. And now, Blake Lively is the one paying the price. And this is where the harsh reality of Blake's situation truly hits. She spent weeks playing the victim, thinking she was untouchable, convinced she could twist the story in her favor. And yet, here we are. The Baldoni family stood their ground, and now, her entire Hollywood standing is in shambles. She wanted to be the woman who took down a man in power, but instead, she's becoming the woman nobody wants to work with. She thought she could control the narrative, but now, she can't even control her own reputation. She tried to burn Justin Baldoni's career to the ground, but instead, his star is rising while hers is fading. And the worst part? She has nobody to blame but herself. This isn't just a celebrity feud anymore. This is a full-blown Hollywood downfall. And Blake Lively is crumbling under the weight of it. What do you think about this situation? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned. Because trust me, the biggest twists are still to come.